Okay, so why don't you start off by introducing yourself?
Okay, so my name's Sean Williams. I live in Brighton, and my official title is the European Regional Education Director. Oh, sorry, the European Assistant Regional Education Director for the Handel Institute. I'm also a Handel practitioner and a Handel screener, and I teach all levels of Handel training. So I teach the practitioner training, also the screening training, and the introductory trainings.
Cool.
I have a clinic here in Brighton, and I see clients ranging from very young, so I've had sort of children of 6 months old, and working right through into adulthood, into sort of people who are in their 50s and 60s. I mean, I know people that also work with people that are beyond those age ranges, but that's my current experience so far. And I have a clinic here in Brighton, as I said. I have one in Manchester, and I have one also in Slovenia as well.
Cool. And they're all busy practices, aren't they? You're a busy man.
They're all quite busy practices, and also we do have students that come in and sit in and help with those practices as well. So I'm not doing it just by myself. That's a lot of work to be doing for one person.
Yeah. Okay, and so you do screening consultations and assessments at practitioner level. Could you just describe the difference in the type of clients that have maybe come for a screening consultation and those that might come for an assessment?
Okay, so this is something that I ascertained quite early on during a telephone conversation and try to find the best thing for the client. And it might be something that takes a little while to clarify, but very, very simply put, in my mind, the person needs to be able to sit down at a table for a period of something like 20 minutes and to follow a number of instructions, some of those with a pen and doing very simple things like sort of doing designs on a paper, or moving their hands or following an object with their eyes, and then some things that they'll do standing up at the table. And if they can hold their attention to that degree and to be able to do those instructions that I ask them about their parents or the person about beforehand, then that would be somebody that could have a screening and could have value from the screening, or could learn interesting things about their systems, their neurodevelopmental systems, that is. So the kind of people that I'm seeing for a screening consultation of 5 years and up. So it needs to be somebody older than 5, and it could be right up until their senior years. And that person would be coming for a session, a shorter session. So it's shorter, it's generally a bit cheaper, and I'm looking to work with people who don't have severe or really involved issues. So the kind of people I'm typically working with, who I'm doing screening consultations, are often children who are in their school process and are having some difficulties, maybe reading or writing, maybe finding it difficult to concentrate, maybe finding that they're a little bit clumsy in the playground. It's a label that's got on them, or they have to themselves, and that they're wanting some help with those things. And then it might be that the person's an adult and that they're struggling at university, or that they're trying to get on in their job and they're finding certain issues difficult that are coming up for them, and they come and want to find out more about it. And that's the kind of people that are coming for screenings. If the issue is more involved and more complicated, if it looks like I need to take more of a developmental history of that person, look at their birth scenario, look at their early development illnesses, a wider sense of what's going on nutritionally or in the environment, then that's already giving me clues that I'm probably going to need to do an assessment. Also, if I'm seeing the issues quite complex and involved, it may be that I'm wanting to do something that gives some activities and recommendations that's beyond the range that is in the screener pantheon. And the other thing that's quite important there is obviously the mode of assessment. The screening consultation is sitting down at a table doing a number of things with somebody. If somebody isn't able to do that and they're not able to sit down at a table and follow through tasks, and I need to be much more flexible in my delivery of the assessment, then we're looking at the full assessment at that point. Or we're looking at least an assessment that is the practitioner kind of assessment that requires more flexibility and experience to be able to learn about what's going on for somebody's neurodevelopmental systems.
And so it's important to make sure that you're getting the right screening or assessment that's needed for that person. So there's certain things that will decipher whether they fit for a screening and fit for an assessment, but whatever's needed for that person is what they're gonna go for. Okay, so would you?
Well, that'll depend on, well, of course, whether they can afford it. It may be that some people sort of come in initially thinking they're going to want a screening, and then they realise that actually it's a bit more involved than that, or that I can't do it, and then they have to go away and think about whether the screening really is something that they want.
Yeah. So would you be happy to share a case example, a case history of someone who has gone through either the screening or assessment, or both if you've got one, and sort of the results that they got of it?
Well, maybe if I'm just thinking of two examples. Now, is it okay to give two?
Please, yeah.
One is a young boy that I originally saw in a learning support centre. He was taking a few days out of his school week to go to this learning centre to help him with reading and writing. And the head teacher of this centre had acknowledged that he needed some help, and she didn't know kind of why he was struggling. But she noticed also that he was sort of finding things like football difficult, and he was generally a little bit clumsy. And so he came for a screening, first of all. And in those days, I used to go and do the screen. I used to do 3 or 4, sometimes 5 screenings a day in school, and do presentations with him and give him his program. I think his parents came to the presentation, and the other teacher was there as well, and they did the program with him at home after this. And he started to experience some sort of fairly remarkable benefits from that, and then that, and so the kind of benefits they noticed his reading age was going up quite quickly. They noticed that he was more comfortable talking, and he was more clear in his speech and his enunciation, and that his football was starting to get his stability and his balance was a little bit better. So those were things that were very promising both for the head teacher and for the parents, and then they decided, okay, well, we want to go on and do a full assessment. And they did a full assessment, I think about 6 months later, and we went into more detailed assessment there, discovered more of the deep-seated issues that were going on for him, and we were able to address those. So we discovered, for example, he was a premature birth, and he had quite a challenging first few months of his life, and that we looked into nutrition for them as well, and some issues that were going on there for him, and we worked quite specifically around the nerves in the face, the trigeminal and facial nerves, and saw even more benefits to the point that his teeth had been not coming through. His adult teeth not been coming through, so his adult teeth started coming through. His reading and writing accelerated even more. He became very confident running around playing football, and various other things that just generally showed that his development was moving forward. So that was an example of a young person, and I think he first came to me when he was about sort of 6 or 7.
Right. Oh, okay.
Gentleman in Manchester. So he's in his 40s, and he came to me initially. He was referred from an occupational therapist. He's an occupational therapist, and he had been moving in and out of various different services. He'd been through mental health provision. He'd been his diagnosis had changed in various forms, and more recently had sort of been in the autistic spectrum, and it had changed to being Tourette's. So he was what was apparent for him was that he was very stressed. He had pain and discomfort in the face. He found it very difficult to censor what he wanted to say, would get very, very stressed, and found himself being socially withdrawn and finding it difficult to manage and look after himself.
Mm-hmm.
And look after his day-to-day living, look after his work. So he started off with a screening from me, and we gave him some activities. It became very apparent what some of his deep-seated issues were. So he'd been struggling all the time with this diagnosis, that diagnosis, some of this, some of that, and it became clear for him what was really going on. Was when we started talking about the things that really were stressed, the systems that were stressed for him, and why he was experiencing the stress he was, and it suddenly started to make sense for him. So that, first of all, took a whole bunch of stress out for him. And then we gave him activities and recommendations to address some of those things, first of all from the screening level. And he started, the stress started to go down. He started to not being sort of, the pain wasn't so, started to come down as well. And he's now, he's been now coming to me for 2 years. So, it's been some time that he's been actually having activities that are much broader than the screening activities. So they're practitioner activities that I'm giving him at the moment. But, his stress has reduced massively. He's been able to move house and manage that whole process. He's living more independently. He's starting even to support his parents more now, whereas his parents have been supporting him. He's been managing a job, and recently that's had to change, and he's been, because of changes in the structure of his company, he's becoming unemployed, and he's managing that very well as well, and finding new jobs, or looking for new jobs, and is generally becoming much more independent and managing himself much better, and sort of his perspective and self-awareness is growing and becoming much more integrated. So that's
amazing.
That's an example of two people. Yeah, and it's very it is amazing. He's really he's a remarkable example, and he's getting local funding for that.
Oh, good.
Initially from a charity, and now from the I think social services are paying.
Excellent.
This program.
And so,
yeah.
Are you finding? I know it's different for you because you have practitioner and screener abilities. Are you finding that most people are doing a screener and then moving on to a screening consultation and then moving on to an assessment, or are there some? What are you finding that's typical?
Well, I'm in a rather unusual situation. I think other screeners and practitioners may experience that, but I see a large percentage of clients who are quite involved and complex.
Okay.
So there could be autism, cerebral palsy, brain injury, where the issues are quite complex and deep-seated. So I'm unable to do a screening at that point. And there is obviously a cost issue for people to consider whether,
Okay.
They know they want to do a full detailed
Yeah.
assessment, then that's up to them to negotiate whether they want to do screening first and then gather information. But I do call it a screening consultation, and there are clients in Slovenia also who I have done a screening for, and then gradually we gather more and more information as time goes on, and more activity, so it becomes more similar to what a full assessment would involve.
Yeah. And so I did have a question here about what do you find makes people want to start a program? What sort of things do they see or feel or think? Because Handel's, depends. I'm not sure Handel's that well known. I mean, it's been going for a while, but what is it that makes someone come to you? Or come in?
Well, word of mouth is often something that is a big attraction for people. So they'll hear somebody else finds their school grades changing, or maybe their job is easier, or maybe their relationships easier, or maybe they're just noticing stress around certain issues and their life has changed.
So the results speak for themselves as well.
The results speak, and then the person kind of says, well, I recognise something similar in myself there, or my child has something similar, and then they make inquiries to finding out more about it. So many people are noticing that maybe something's a little bit difficult for them in their life, or that something's not going as well as they would want it to, and that might be schoolwork. It might be that they're finding they're exhausted at the end of the day after they've done their job. One of the clients that I've got at the moment, although he's somebody with a full assessment with, he could have also had a screening as well, and he's just finding it's really difficult to manage his job, and he's just slightly overwhelmed with all the things. So it means that when people give him instructions, he either has a reaction that says, don't tell me what to do, or he kind of misses parts of the instructions. And he's finding that even in the space of two weeks of doing the program, they've noticed substantial differences. So that's one thing I think that brings people to the program. Sometimes people come from having done an introductory course and they're interested in the whole approach, which is very much about gently enhancing our systems, helping ourselves live more easily with less stress. And people recognise that they have stress. Lots of people do these days, and that we could live a little bit without that. And they are attracted by the whole thinking of Handle, about how the fact that it's an approach that considers the whole individual and our interaction and the effect of the environment on us. And
there's a lot of very appealing and attracting things about Handle, I think.
There are, and I think there's a lot of research happening at the moment to do with the brain and the resourcefulness and the unlimited potential of the brain to learn and to be adaptive and for us to achieve things that we previously thought that we couldn't achieve. And I think Handle is at the forefront of making that knowledge accessible to people so that they can actually do it in their lives. So rather than just be academic neuroscience about the potential of something, it's actually activities, things that they can do, or recommendations they can do to actually promote that for themselves in their lives. And I think that's exciting for people.
Very much.
Sometimes people come because they've been brought along by their parents,
dragged along,
or they've been recommended by a teacher.
And it's a pleasant thing to do, isn't it? It's not a chore for them.
That brings in mind that one of the boys that I originally years ago, when I was first training, I did an assessment on his sister, because she was in the autistic spectrum, and she needed a hand program to address some of her sensory and motor issues, and we did an assessment with her and did some activities, and he kept sticking his head through the door of the room saying, well, they look so having fun in there. Why can't I join in? And then I think partly because he was feeling a little bit left out, and partly because his mum recognised he was sort of having some issues along the lines of dyslexia, and we did a screening with him and gave him a program, and so he was kind of doing it because he wanted to join in, but he also recognised that he had some maybe challenges, but just by himself he probably wouldn't have wanted to even acknowledge those challenges. And he was done in 2.5 months. His program goals had been reached by then, and they didn't need to do the program any longer. So that was a real success. And the mother then later went on, and she wanted an assessment.
So you had the whole family.
His sister had an assessment, he had a screening, and his mum had a full detailed assessment.
Brilliant. Okay, and then if you had to give 3 tips for people when they start a Handle program, 3 tips to encourage them on their way, what would you suggest?
Oh, that's a good one. Okay, so the first thing I would be thinking, so they're just about to start here.
Mm-hmm.
So the first thing I would be saying is that really consider that this is going to be something that's not a quick fix, and it's something that you're going to need to give some time every day for some time.
Mm-hmm.
So to have it in your mind that you're not rushing the program, that you're not trying to...
So having a level of commitment there then.
So having a level of commitment, so that you're starting and you're looking at sort of giving yourself something like 40 minutes a day for a good few months. I think depending on whether it's a screening or an assessment, but you're looking at sort of, quite a few months, more than 3, maybe 6 months. You're looking at really giving it a good period of time to do your program in a relaxed way. Those to really try and that's a good question. There's so many things I want to say, and it's good. To really make a point of doing the activities in a relaxed and easy way that is as fun and engaging for the person that you're doing them with.
Good. Okay.
So not worrying about having it precise and doing it a precise duration of time and in a precise way, but taking the principles that the screener or the practitioner is sharing with you, and really trying to integrate those into your family life and in a way that the person is going to want to do. So even if you're an adult and you're doing them, make it work for you. Fit it into your schedule. I've got one lady that I'm working with that really can't manage to do very much activities a day. So she does an activity called skull tapping as she's drying her hair.
Right.
She's doing an activity called face tapping while she's in the shower. She's doing other activities while she's walking to work.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Short, succinct for her, and it's easily and it's manageable, and she enjoys it, and it fits into her day. It's not a struggle to do it. And so it's about sort of finding a way that works for the individual, and particularly if you're doing it on children, it really needs to be very important that you're making it enjoyable for them. Because if their systems are struggling, or if they're struggling to receive the activity or tolerate it, some people use the words, and then you're, one, it's going to be really difficult to sustain it, and two, it's really not going to get the benefits. And I can have one more, because I only said 2 so far.
Okay.
I would want to encourage parents to see this as a whole paradigm shift, a whole thinking shift for them. It's not just activities for them to do for 20 to 40 minutes a day, and then their child is going to be changed however they want them to be changed. But that one needs to start to see the child and in their entirety, see their challenges, how they're affected by the environment, how they might be affected also by the parents and the parents' expectations, and that how the activity and the whole program is done, how the activities and the whole program is done, is as a larger part of what we're teaching as the actual methodology of the activities. So the whole idea of supporting systems, not stressing them, watching to see if somebody has had enough, or one of their developmental systems has had enough, and then stopping, is the very thing that will promote somebody's growth, their learning, their nervous system to develop in a sort of harmonious and I was going to say wonderful way, but in a way that allows them to develop as an integral person. And if we are approaching that person with the ethos of Handel, which encompasses those things of gentle enhancement, watching for signs of stress, in considering the whole and all the different factors of something, then we're much more likely to enhance somebody's potential.
Excellent. Sean, thank you so much. You've given so much
Welcome.
value and information, and I think that's really going to help a lot of people understand Handle more. So if people want to get in touch with you, how can they do that?
My email is handle, as in door handle, Ellie, at seanwilliams.co.uk.
Okay.
I'm also on the Handle website, which is www.handle.org. No W there. And that we also have our own website, which is www.seanwilliams.co.uk. It's a new website that we're developing at the moment. But by the time this is up, that website will be there.
Perfect.
So yeah, email me, or you can get my contact details on the Handle website or our website. And if you want to telephone for a conversation, then please do.
That's perfect. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.